Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Natalie Youngblood, your Virginia FBLA State President.
I'm Lydia Craig, and I am your Shenandoah Region President and Vice President representing the Shenandoah region.
So today we have created a lot of tips and helpful reminders for you all in becoming an officer, whether that be for your chapter, region, or state. So obviously there are some similarities between the three, but as you kind of increase the responsibility, it can be difficult. So we made some tips for everyone about getting involved for starters, but then also how to maintain the position and do your best work. So how we started it with being a chapter officer, which we both are and have both served different officer positions throughout our school. I have been the chapter secretary twice and the chapter vice president for 1 year.
So the first year I served as a chapter officer, I was treasurer, and then the next year I was chapter president, and then this year I served as chapter treasurer again.
So usually you will have chapter elections unless there's a unique case where there's only one person running, but in a chapter election, before you even start running, start making a foundation for your campaign, you really want to start to establish, you'll also do this with your officer team later, but what you want to do is create some goals in a program of work that you have for your whole chapter. And one of the things that I think works best is if you can create specific tasks for each of the members in your chapter or for the officer team of your chapter in the program of work and in the list of goals that you make. So for example, if I was running for president of my chapter, I might say I want our chapter treasurer this year to, increase our fundraising and find maybe 3 new ways to fundraise that we've never done before. So that way you're engaging members of your chapter and getting them involved while you're still on the campaign trail, which will most definitely make people more drawn to you and more excited about your campaign.
For sure. And then also when you do decide that you're going to run, think about all of the things that would make you qualified to be an officer. So maybe talk to your advisor about what they would recommend you to talk about or do. Think about your experience. Have you ever been an officer in another club? Do you see yourself as a leader, someone who can take charge and get things done? What are your skills, strengths? Maybe even think what your weaknesses are so you kind of know, like being honest about what you want to work on is something that a lot of people will appreciate. And then kind of the more visual stuff depends on how your school does it. If you do campaigning at like a meeting, maybe you'll have a slideshow or maybe you'll just give a speech, but be prepared to do whatever your chapter does. So write the speech ahead of time, get that slides done ahead of time, don't wait till the last minute, and just be confident in yourself, project the way that you want to be seen, and just hope for the best, I guess.
Also use the fact that you go to school with everyone that's in your chapter as a leverage. It's networking with all the people that you go to school with and see every day. It makes it so much easier to make a connection with them and secure their vote.
Exactly. And if think about how you portray yourself outside of your FBLA chapter, if you have English or history or math with these kids, if you're messing around in class, not paying attention, they might not trust you to take on a leadership role. So think about how you project yourself in every single classroom, because all of these kids know you and they know kind of how you act. So if you want to be a leader, then act like one and people will begin to respect that for sure.
Yeah, that's true in any office.
Let's read some of the comments here.
As we go on, please give us some comments, ask some questions as we go on. We want this to be really interactive and really get to know you all, because obviously we won't get to see you at the state conference. So this is our opportunity to really get to know everyone else and do some of that networking that we were just talking about.
Yeah, we have a president-elect in here. Sarah's in here. Hi, Sarah. She is one of our regional presidents as well. We have a treasurer, a chapter reporter.
Germana regional president. That's exciting. So you'll get to be on the state officer
Congratulations.
team.
And we will definitely have some tips for you coming up.
Yep, just coming up. So that's exciting, and you can ask questions too. So then the next way that we broke this down is becoming a regional officer. So being a chapter officer is so exciting because you get to represent the members of your school, but being a regional officer is just as exciting, if not more, because you're getting to represent a greater group of people. So for this, it's very important to make connections with the other chapters. If you're running, especially for regional president, one of the big, most important things that you can do is connect with other chapters, connect with their advisors, connect with their chapter presidents, so that you have a foundation and a network between all across your region, because the regions are very broad, especially ours. We're from the Shenandoah region, and so we have, from Winchester to Loudoun County, which is like 60 miles. Our region is very, very wide, and so we don't have the advantage of being close to all of the schools in our region, so we often use technology, and Lydia can weigh in on this because she was the Shenandoah region president this year, and I was the Shenandoah region president last year. But probably the most important thing is getting to establish a foundation of a network and communication with all of the chapters within your region, because that will be crucial in not only winning the election, but in also being an effective leader for the whole region throughout your term.
Excuse my dog, he barked there for a second. I apologize about that. But yes, so I just am coming to the end of my term as the, can you let him outside real quick? Sorry about that. So I'm coming to the end of my term as the Shenandoah region president. Before you run, definitely speak to your advisor. There's an application that you need to fill out. And as a regional president, if that's what you want to run for, you need to apply for your regional offices as well as your state office. And it takes planning. And again, there's a whole other campaign that you need to plan. When you get to your regional conference, that's usually where you'll campaign. You'll need a board. You'll need, your campaign slogan, all the things that you want to run on, a speech. So definitely, if you're thinking about it, be prepared. Ask your advisor all the questions that you need. They're there to help you. They want to help you. They want to have a regional president on their team. It's a great thing to have on your chapter as regional officers. It's definitely helps you stay connected to the regional and state levels. So again, just preparation is key with every officer position. When you go to make your speech at your regional conference, have your goals in mind. What do you want to do as a regional president? I know some of mine were connecting chapters to each other, trying to increase our social media presence. Our historian really helped us out a lot with creating a website, and that's something that we were really excited about. Do you have any?
I think that another big thing is in creating your goals, you want to make the goals more broad than you would if you were running for a chapter office. And that doesn't mean less specific, but you want these goals that you create to be applicable to a greater group of people, a bigger group of people. So it's not to say that you want the goals to be less specific, but you want to create goals that are attainable and that are necessary for the entire region, not just what works for your chapter. So this could be gain new members or, increase donations for Project Ask, which is our state service project. That's a big one. You always want to have your region getting involved and pulling all those chapters together to create, donations for Project Ask or getting involved, volunteering with them in any way that you can, because not only does that help create a goal, but it also connects the chapters throughout the region.
Exactly. And making the transition between chapter and region office can be kind of a big one. For one thing, you don't have all your officers in one place like you do in your chapter. So the Shenandoah region this year, our officers came from the Frederick County area and then Loudoun. So we had to hold meetings over Zoom or Google Hangout and, trying to coordinate between everybody's schedules. A lot of times those meetings were at 8 in the evening and, they could go on until 10 p.m. So you're going to make a few sacrifices here and there. You're not going to be able to you might have to get your homework done earlier. You may need to work around your working schedule. There are things that you're going to have to work on to fit this into your life. And if you do become an FBLA officer, you are expected to make that a priority. It's not supposed to be the last thing on your list. It's expected to be up there with your normal schoolwork. And if your regional officers or regional team is anything like mine, we held that standard throughout the year. And I'm really, really proud of our team and our state team as well. I feel like we did a good job of staying on top of everything. But again, be ready for that responsibility, because it is not the same as being a chapter officer. Do you want to talk about kind of some of the overlap between region and state office?
So obviously, as some of you know, because you've commented that you won the election for your region president, that makes you automatically have a seat in the state office. So then you are the state vice president representing whatever region. So I think we had Nova region and Germanna region.
Mm-hmm.
So they're, pretty close to us. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of overlap, but one of the big things is that if you are that state vice president position and the regional president position, you have so much more to keep track of, because you are responsible for taking everything that you've learned at the state level and everything that you've established at the state level and bringing it back to your region. So not only just trying to focus on the broad picture of, instilling all the new goals and rules to the state, but also to your region, which is also very, very helpful because you have a network of all the chapters in your region and your own chapter, but it is most definitely a lot more responsibility. Lydia served that position this year, so she can kind of attest to that.
For sure. And a lot of things start at the state level and then they kind of trickle down to regions, to chapter, and so on. And it's really important to stay in touch. One of my biggest pieces of advice is just start that relationship with your regional advisor from the day you are elected until the day you are out of office. Miss Woodward and I, we have become very close in the past year. She is an amazing lady, but you need your regional advisor support. They are there to help you. They know all the rules. They know how to get things done. It is your job as a student, chapter, regional officer, whoever it is, to communicate. So check your email every day. Be ready to look for those emails, respond promptly. And then when, Miss Natalie at the state level has something for you to do, if you're regional president, be ready to do that. Respond to her email. Work as a team, because the structure of our organization doesn't work if we don't all work together. So that's really important that you establish that relationship with your region advisor and keep it strong. Ask questions when you need to, because they want to help and they want to have a successful region. Don't feel bad about asking questions, because they want to help you. And trust me, I would not have been nearly as successful if I didn't have Miss Woodward or the rest of my regional team with me, helping me through the year. So, and that's same for the state level as well.
It's definitely a lot of responsibility, but the reward that you get from, helping carry the FBLA, state, and the region is immeasurable. Mm-hmm. We've had such a wonderful experience through FBLA through our last 4 years, getting to serve as chapter, regional, and state officers. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And one more thing before we go to just state officer stuff. If you're a regional president, I think we have one or two future region presidents in here. There's a lot of information that comes from the state and the region. And so it's your job to, get the information from Mrs. Mills or Natalie, our future Natalie, whoever that may be. Take the information they give you. And then when you have your monthly regional meeting, say, okay, have a list in front of you. Guys, this is what's coming from the state. This is what we need to know about. Same thing from the region. When you do your winter board meeting or whatever, hey, this is what my region's been up to. You have to do a semi-annual report, so be ready to do that. You don't want to be sitting there a week before winter board and trying to think of, okay, what did I do in August? Keep track of what you've been doing. Keep track of what your chapter and region is doing. And trust me, it'll help a lot when the first weekend of December rolls up and you got to turn in a report.
Just stay on top of things is the biggest thing. Don't come up with an idea, great idea, and get the momentum flowing and then let it die down. That happens often, and it's understandable because everyone is so busy. Everyone has schoolwork to do, but you won't be able to just fathom and measure how much progress you've made until you really get the momentum going and keep it rolling and start something new, or create a new goal and achieve it. It's really special. So the next thing that we've outlined, I know we've talked a little bit about state office already, but we did, come up with some tips for being a state officer.
So first, you go from a region, which can be pretty large. Like we said, the Shenandoah region, I believe, is the largest in the state. So there are a lot of kids in our region. And then you get to the state level and, think about the state leadership conference. If you've been there before, it's a lot of people. So your networking skills need to range from the, however many people are your chapter, to the region, to the state level. Staying in contact with your fellow officers is very important. Coordinating between each other is very important. Just making sure that there is a strong communication between everybody so that everything gets done and nothing falls through the cracks, as well as making the connection with the members, whether you're at your regional leadership conference or the national fall conference. When you're representing Virginia FBLA, you need to do your best to represent, because Ms. Mills does an amazing job of creating a very strong state chapter, and be proud of being a part of the Virginia FBLA team, because it's a very, very special duty that you have.
I agree. Communication is probably the most crucial part of being a state officer. You have to be on top of it. You have to be checking your email and really trying and staying involved and putting in the effort, because so much can go unnoticed if you're not checking your email and not being an involved part of the team. It's not fair to other students and other officers if you aren't putting in your 100% effort. But truly, when everyone is working together, everyone is communicating and networking effectively, it's incredible what you can get done.
Exactly. Next, I think we kind of want to talk about the goals of the state officer team. So for those of you who aren't quite aware yet, or our future regional presidents here, things that I know are a little bit different because of this pandemic, but traditionally the state officer team over the summer meets for about 3 days, and we do a leadership training, and this is where the state team comes up with our program of work. It's a pretty intensive day and a half that I say we worked on ours this year, from about, I think it was like the afternoon into the evening into the next morning, where you have, our officer team was pretty large, 16
well,
kids.
maybe 15 actually.
And, so we're all sitting around each other with like a few laptops, and we're coming up with all the goals we want between the regional presidents. Natalie can tell you a little bit about the different teams that we make up. But having those goals is something that we work really hard on as a state team and work on throughout the year. Do you want to add a little more specifics?
So I think one of the biggest things is you'll say in your campaign speech that you want to increase the membership or increase the, donations for Project Ask, but those things yes, you can say them, but what will make you stand out is if you have unique goals. Those creating membership and increasing the donations for Project Ask, increasing your involvement in, the March of Dimes, the National Service Project, those things should be ongoing goals. Those are happening every year. It should be planted, firm goal that every year that goes, even without saying, that you really want to increase your membership. You really want to, increase your funding. But it's important to make unique goals. So you want to, revamp the website or create new social media tools, have weekly, you could create your goal to have a weekly Zoom meeting with anybody that in the state could join, to keep everyone really involved, just down to the local chapter members. You'll stand out if you have unique goals. And then, so we'll go back, because Lydia was talking about the program of work and the different teams. We split our officer team into 2 subgroups, which I'm sure some of you do this in your chapters. You have committees who are dedicated to, maybe there's a membership committee, a fundraising committee, whatever that may be. Well, we had 2 different committees this year, and we were able to get a lot, done effectively, because we had one membership team, which was solely dedicated to, understanding new ways to recruit new members, why our membership has, fluctuated throughout the years. And then we had our other team, which was dedicated to state and national programs. So that might be Project Ask, or creating and obtaining sponsorships for our state conference. Definitely providing and splitting up the work between different groups in your officer team will help so much and allow you to work effectively, because then you have different strengths in the different groups, different people work well together, and then it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, and I want to add, when you come to the training over the summer, there are so many great ideas that your team has, but just the truth of it is some things are really difficult to accomplish. As minors and as an organization that has a lot of membership that are minors, there's a lot of communication things that you just can't do for safety reasons. There's a lot of things that you really need to talk to your regional and state advisors about, making sure that we're keeping everybody safe, especially in an era of social media. I know that's one of the things we had a lot of ideas about, starting group chats for chapter presidents with regional presidents this year, but for some regions that just wasn't feasible because of safety concerns. And obviously FBLA, the number one priority is making sure that our members all have a safe and positive experience. So don't feel discouraged if some of the ideas that you come up with can't make it into the program of work. If you and another member have conflicting ideas, work on communicating and come up with a compromise. But just for you guys, future state officers in here, not every idea can make it into the program of work. Some things are really fun, awesome ideas, but you just can't get it to work on a state level sometimes. And I don't want to discourage you guys at all, but just come up with creative ways to solve the problems, and don't get upset, if not everything ends up the way you thought it would. Just kind of a little wisdom there for you, because it can be hard if you think you have this like awesome idea, but it doesn't always work out. So just be ready to tackle it and keep on going. I promise you will accomplish a lot as a state officer, and it's just a very special thing to be a part of.
Being adaptable is a big thing, being open to change. Mrs. Mills just, brought to our attention, some of you probably already know this, that the Virginia Department of Education has safety standards that we have to follow. So that could be, in terms of name tags at the state conference, but that's also in publicizing the names of officers. We can't do that because of safety. We want everyone to be safe, obviously. So then sometimes it can be difficult to get the information of different chapter presidents. If you want to connect, especially in your region, you want to connect all of the chapters. So it's helpful sometimes to go through the advisor, because you can't reach out to each of the chapters because of the safety guidelines and say, oh, can I have your phone number? So it's definitely difficult sometimes because of those things, but the bottom line is that we want everyone to be safe. And thinking about, obviously this pandemic isn't ideal and it's difficult for everyone to use Zoom, but I think that we have such great turnout and everybody in the virtual flies. So this could be something that we take forward and we learn from this experience and use Zoom in the future to have a weekly, one or two of the state officers get together, or one or two of your regional officers get together, and everyone can discuss what happened that week, what new ideas they've been using in their chapters. Definitely being adaptable, being able to work around different circumstances is definitely important, especially in this case.
For sure. And that's also very true when you think about the increased responsibility you have as a state officer. So again, as Virginia FBLA representatives, you are held to a higher standard. You have to treating everybody with respect and just making sure that FBLA, you're giving FBLA a good name. Okay, did something happen with that?
Now can you hear us?
Okay,
sorry guys.
That got off. Let me turn off my Bluetooth. Okay, is anything happening now?
Okay, they can hear us.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that, guys. At what point
Ready
did it
for
cut off?
responsibility.
Oh, okay. So we were just talking about being ready for that responsibility. As a state officer, you'll get some lovely polos and a state officer uniform. You want to make sure that that's always ready to go, ready to be worn. I know Mrs. Mills worked really hard to get all that stuff put together for us to have beautiful little scarves and everything. Make sure your skirt's the correct length. Make sure your scarf is tied nicely. Guys, make sure your ties look good. Your pants are the right length. You know, you want to present yourself well, because when you walk into a room with a bunch of kids and they see that uniform, a lot of times, you know, they're kind of like, whoa, like there's the kind of professionals. And that's the way you want to present yourself, because you're a leader and you want to present yourself like a leader.
You're most definitely a representation. As soon as, well, always, you're always representing FBLA, no matter where you are, what you're doing. So you always have to be careful about that. But especially when you're standing up on a stage at the state leadership conference, or anytime you go somewhere and you're wearing your state uniform, or if you maybe you have a regional shirt or something, you're representing FBLA, and you absolutely have to present yourself as if you're representing FBLA. You know, you have to present yourself very well. You have to be mindful of the things that you're saying and you're doing, because you have so many people looking up to you. So many people are looking to you as the face of FBLA.
And Mr. Farrell put something in the chat that you guys should definitely read. It's definitely true. Just talking about, you know, when you put on that blazer, you're really the face of this association, and be proud to wear it, and, you know, show that you're proud. Something that goes with, you know, being a proud and member of FBLA is putting FBLA first, especially if you're going to be a state officer. We touched on this with the regional office, but you'll learn if you go to the summer training or whatever it may be. But FBLA kind of becomes your life. I mean, your academics obviously are still very, very important, but you know, make sure you show up to the conferences. If you can't go to summer leadership training, you can't really be a state officer. You need to show up. You need to be present. You need to be doing your work. FBLA is a high priority, and if you want to commit to being a state officer, then you need to commit, and you need to understand that some other clubs or whatever it may be will have to stop taking precedent, because you ran for a spot that maybe somebody else would have liked to have. You took that spot, and congratulations for getting it. But if you weren't serious about it, there was somebody else probably willing to work really hard and have that spot. So just keep that in mind. As a state president or regional president, you need to do your best to fulfill that role to the best of your abilities. And not that there aren't people there to help you if things get tricky, but you can't just decide that you don't want to do your work anymore. It's very important that FBLA is a priority.
And that's not to say that you can't have many commitments. You can't still do everything that you like to do. You can still be on a sports team, involved in different other organizations and clubs at school. But if you're an officer position, not only are you representing the organization of FBLA, but also you really truly have to put in the time and effort, because your position is so crucial to the effectiveness of the organization.
Exactly. And I just want to go over some of the main responsibilities of a state officer. So obviously conferences like this, Natalie and I are both seniors. We'll be graduating-ish, kind of, sort of, in June. And so a lot of kids by this time in the year, you're kind of done with school, especially now since like our school is kind of all online and stuff. But, you know, we're still here. We're still doing a workshop because we committed to this and we enjoy doing it. But understand that, you know, next year, if you're a state officer, you'll be in Reston and you'll be on stage, and if you're a girl, you'll be in those heels all day, and you will be doing your thing, running those workshops, helping people find their way around, doing everything that you need to do. So be ready for that.
Mrs. Mills will say that by January, she starts to lose us, and everyone will be busy. Things will, you know, you're starting, especially for seniors, you're ready to graduate. There's so many other things rolling around that time of year, but it's so important that you remember why you took the officer position, why you wanted to represent FBLA and really use that momentum to carry you through the end of the year. Because the state leadership conference, that's the biggest thing. You know, that's the highlight of the year. You finally get to see all of your hard work come together and really get to interact with all of the other members. So if you commit to it, don't give up before the time has come.
Exactly. And just some more of the responsibility. So you guys probably know about all the conferences. That's the one thing that most members know about. You also need to find sponsorships throughout the year. So one of the ways that we pay for having such a awesome state leadership conference and all of those beautiful plaques and the scholarships and the prize money that you get when you win an award is through sponsorships. It's one of the, I would say, more difficult things that we students have to do, not because it's really that hard, but it's the first time that we as students are going out in the community and, asking people to support us. And there are people like your advisor and Mrs. Mills and your regional advisor that are happy to help you put letters together, happy to help you give advice. But it's something that was kind of definitely different for me. I had never gone out in the community and asked for people to donate money to help us run our state conference. And I know Natalie has a little more experience with that.
This is quite a unique task. Some of you have probably done this for sports teams or something else, but it's difficult. It's hard to go out into the community and really present yourself. This is another time you get to present yourself and represent FBLA, but it's very new. It's a new experience for some of us to really go out and speak to business professionals or other professionals in our community. But it's one of the things that will help you grow so much because you're getting the experience of coming out of your comfort zone, making connections, networking with people that you may have never met before. And you're doing it while you're wearing your state officer uniform. You're telling them what FBLA means to you, all the benefits of FBLA for all the students like us and like you who are here today, is that FBLA means so much to us and has helped us grow so much throughout high school, and will continue to. The skills that we have learned through FBLA, not only will we use them when trying to obtain these sponsorships, but we'll use them for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then some other stuff you guys should be looking for as state officers is this year we really got into writing articles. So once a month on Get Connected, there was an article by all of the officers. I wrote mine pretty early in the fall, but that's something that, you want to jump on when the list is ready to go in the fall. Who puts those lists together? I think our reporter, yeah. So we all kind of work on, sign up for the article you want if you really are into that one article. Get it in on time so it can be edited and stuff. But I think that was a really cool thing that we did this year, was really get into those articles. And I enjoyed reading what my fellow officers had to say. What are some other things that they should be expecting?
I think that's a really unique thing that we get to do, is share some of our advice and experience through our blog that we kind of revamped it 2 years ago. So everyone can go and read that and get to have an indirect interaction with each of the state officers monthly. That's definitely really exciting for members to get to see, because, you may not get to see your state officers every day, but you're still getting to read the things that they write about, as long as you really keep up with the task.
Exactly. As a regional president, again, keeping the connection between your region and state. So when you have regional duties, I was really lucky to have Natalie at my school and for her to be a good friend of mine. So when I had to go visit schools for my region, which is another really fun thing we did this year, we challenged our regional presidents to visit as many chapters as they could in their region so that we could try and increase connection and membership. Natalie came with me a lot. And so that was another thing. As a regional president, you might need to be traveling. You're going to need to work with your advisor to work with your school schedule. I can tell you in the fall, I had to miss school, but I was doing it for FBLA. And, I made sure that I talked to my teachers beforehand. Don't just miss school. Be responsible. Go talk to your teachers. Make sure you're getting your homework done. You're not just missing school to have fun. You're going in your state officer uniform to present yourself to a chapter that may have not seen anybody from the state or region level for a while. We visited a chapter that was reactivating their chapter this year from a really small town. We drove down to Buffalo Gap, and we really, I believe they restarted their chapter that year. And so it's really fun when, I can't remember how many kids the advisors said joined.
It was like 30 after we came.
It was like 30 kids in a school of 400 people.
You'd be surprised how far something like that can go. Just a simple visit, and you know, share with them all the things that FBLA stands for and all the wonderful benefits. So many people will join. So don't ever underestimate the power of just reaching out, just paying a simple visit. Another thing is teamwork, working as a team. Obviously you're here, you're in FBLA, you're a natural leader, or, you know, that's something that you're working towards being, is a leader. And so oftentimes leaders who have really strong personalities it's a struggle for them to work as a team. We both have had this problem, but it's, you know, you have to be willing and able to work as a team. Take a step back, listen to others, let them share their ideas. Don't diminish anyone else just because you may disagree, because being optimistic and being open to new ideas and letting others weigh in, even if it's not just from your state or regional officer team, anyone, you know, you guys can now use the chat feature to share ideas. Being open and optimistic and, you know, receptive to new ideas is so important. And so don't let, you know, your natural personality as a leader get in the way of your teamwork.
Exactly. You could ask Mrs. Boswell or Mrs. Mills. Natalie and I have brought ourselves a reputation of being like the dynamic duo. I would say we both have very strong personalities. We both love being leaders. And so I know for both of us, that's something we have to think about, is not always having to take charge and be in charge of everything. Even though I'm a regional president and she's our state president, you know, your team has a lot of great ideas. They're there for a reason.
It's certainly a challenge, but when you take a step back and allow everyone to contribute their ideas and, you know, not be in the way of yourself in a way, but letting everyone contribute, letting everyone share their ideas, your group will accomplish so much more and have so many new, unique goals and ideas because of all the different perspectives that are going into this.
Exactly. Also, I know for me and Natalie, sometimes we just want to get everything done because we want it a certain way and we think, okay, well, I'm going to do it because I want it done this way. But if you take on every responsibility, you're going to crumble. You can't do everything. Your team is there to support you. They are there to do the work that they wanted to do. They signed up to be officers as well. So don't make yourself do everything. You can delegate. You can, you know, you don't have to do everything, because I promise you your team is perfectly capable of doing everything. Honestly, I think we're moving kind of away from having the very strict president, vice president, treasurer kind of structure. We all work together a lot more holistically now. I know at the regional level, it was never like, I'm the president, whatever I say goes. It was more, we all talk to each other. We decided together, for sure. You know, there's not the whole, well, I'm going to disregard because I'm the president. So remember that as you work on your officer teams.
So with that being said, we can go through and give just a couple traits that you need to have with you if you are in an officer position, what will make you a good leader and make you a good officer. But as we go through that, please give us some questions since we're getting close to wrapping up so that we can answer them and get to interact with you guys. So I think we mentioned this already, but the communication skills are so necessary. That is probably the biggest thing that goes into being an officer. You have to be able to facilitate excellent communication across your state, across your region, and even just within your chapter if you want to succeed. That's the biggest thing for me, I think, is learning to be a good communicator and an effective communicator.
For me as an officer throughout the past few years, I would say organization has been the thing that I need most. I think it was at winter board, I think Mrs. Mills looked at me and was like, Lydia probably keeps multiple lists going at one time. And that's true. I'm a list person. I have a beautiful planner where I have my whole day scheduled out. Not that you have to do that much, but you're going to have a regional meeting every month. There's going to be state meetings every few weeks, every few months. You're going to have reports due, you're going to have articles due, you're going to need to make sure you turn in your bio so that it states they know, you know, what college you're going to, all that kind of information, and all that's time sensitive. So, you know, even if you don't want to write what you're doing hour by hour like me, make sure that you know, okay, in May, here's the 3 things that are due for FBLA. Make sure you say, okay, my sponsorships are due this day, I need to mail them in this time. For you seniors or upcoming seniors, college applications hit fast, scholarships hit fast, all of that stuff really hits you hard the end of fall, winter, and it can be very busy trying to get those essays in and all that, but FBLA is still there. FBLA does not stop. It is May, we're still going, so stay organized. Don't get overwhelmed though, just take a deep breath, write it down, and I promise you'll be okay.
It takes some effort, but figuring out what works for you, how to balance everything is really important. And I know Mrs. Mills just put a question in. How did you balance all of your responsibilities in FBLA? I think one of the biggest things for me was I leaned on you a lot. And because we have, you know, don't ever forget that you have the resources. You have a chapter behind you. You have friends with you who are always, they want to see you succeed. So Lydia and I will say, okay, let's make a list of all the things we have due this week. What should we do in FBLA? How can we work together? So having other people with you is so necessary and so crucial for balancing all of those responsibilities. We have some of the most wonderful resources. Their names are Mrs. Boswell and Mrs. Mills, and they are constantly helping us and they really want the best for us. She's going to show your planner.
Okay, yes. So I have always relied on Natalie. I told you I pretty much did not go on a school visit without her. Natalie and I have been joined at the hip since, I want to say, freshman year. And we have done every project together. We have run for offices together. You should have seen me when Natalie was running for president. I was practically throwing cookies at people, telling everybody how awesome Natalie was. So having people on your team that you really trust. The rest of my regional officer team I absolutely love, Jameis and Zion and all of them. They were always so helpful. And then my beautiful planner, this was December 2019, very busy. You'll see that, you know, we had our winter board meeting this weekend. I had finals and all this stuff going on, but you don't have to be this excessive, but please keep a planner, go in your phone calendar, put things in. However you stay organized, you will need to do it, because I promise you, you cannot keep 8 different deadlines up in your head while doing school, while playing a sport. I was still working at this time. So please stay organized. You know, your advisors are there to help you, but you're your own person. In high school, you should be pretty responsible for yourself. So again, take a deep breath, write it down. That was my strategy. But find what works for you. Go online, research different ways to deal with stress and a lot of tasks maybe, but figure out what works for you.
It's important to be responsible, most definitely, because you're in high school, and especially as seniors, you know, you're going into the next chapter of your life, which is so unique because you've not experienced anything like that before. So yes, you need to be responsible and determine what works for you, determine how to balance all of your responsibilities, but never forget that you really do have people in your corner. You have so many people there that want to see you succeed, especially as an officer. You have your whole state team. They all want to see you succeed just as much as you want to see each of them succeed. All your advisors and other chapter members, they're there to help you. Everyone, you know, wants to work together, especially that's one of the things that makes FBLA so unique, is that everyone really does want to work together and work to see our goals be achieved. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to reach out and say, you know, I'm struggling a bit with this. Do you think you could help me? I know that's one of the reasons Lydia and I are so close, because we are in FBLA together and we are able to use one another to really prioritize and, you know, sort things out and determine what works best for us.
Exactly. And if you guys have any other questions for us, even if it's not strictly about being an officer, just like about our experiences in FBLA, I don't know how many of our members here in the Zoom chat are new FBLA members, or if you've all been in for a few years. I would call Natalie and I some FBLA veterans may not be the right word, but we joined the beginning of our freshman year, and we have been extremely involved ever since then. Do you want to tell them how we ended up in FBLA?
We are lucky because FBLA has most definitely shaped our high school experience to be so memorable, but also just so wonderful. We sat next to one another in our computer information systems class in freshman year, and our teacher said, you two, you should definitely do a project together. You should do a competitive event. And we didn't know, what we were into, so we agreed to, and we made it all the way to nationals our first year. We got first at the regional level and first at the state level, and figured out that it was really something we were interested in and really something that we could be passionate about. So we got to work together and work really hard on something, and it's so nice and exciting when something that you've poured so much of yourself into and so worked so hard on really takes you that far, and you can really see the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, and Nat and I, we got to go to nationals again our sophomore year. We've been to Anaheim, Baltimore, and San Antonio last year. Was it Baltimore that we placed?
Baltimore we placed.
So we went to Baltimore with our James Wood advisor, Mr. Thomas, another very cool guy. And we placed 4th in the nation for business ethics. It was definitely one of the best weeks I think we had. And we had so much fun. We met a lot of new people, and that is definitely a project I will never forget. I will tell you that if you do speaking events in FBLA, 3 years later, you will remember what your opening line is. When you go to nationals, you have all of your speeches memorized. So I still remember one of my sentences about cloud computing, some of the information about the GM scandal that happened. So it's kind of one of those funny things that you remember a few years later. You just kind of think about FBLA and you're like, why do I still remember my opening line?
We've definitely, through our competitive events, have grown so much. And it's been just a totally unique, amazing experience for us. And I'm so glad that I chose to be part of FBLA as a freshman, because it's definitely shaped my high school experience. Someone asks, where can I find the blog? Usually we have the blogs linked in our Instagram bio, but maybe it may have changed. Our reporter may have changed it because of the virtual conference, so they may be putting some links in there. But you can find the blog on our state website.
Yeah, and Mr. Farrell said something about the advisors really being the ones who see the potential in us and sparking our involvement. And I will say that is 100% true. Our advisor freshman year retired, and that's how we got Mrs. Boswell, and she came in and has done wonders for our James Wood chapter. I feel like we have really, really grown in the past 3 years. She helped Natalie do her regional presidency and then moved her on to state president, and then I ran for regional president. She has always been there for us and the chapter. Also, Mr. Onda, our other advisor, has been amazing. At state conference, he would drive to states to attract me and back. Mr. Thomas has been there for all of our national competitions. He told us that he even was on the verge of tears when we presented our business ethics presentation, the one we got 4th in the nation for. So I want you guys to keep your advisors in your minds, especially in a time where you're not seeing them. You guys were being state officers, regional officers, chapter officers next year. Those are really important relationships, and your advisors are really the backbone of all of our FBLA work that we do.
Our advisors work so hard to create opportunities for us, but also to push us out of our comfort zones and allow us to experience new things. We wouldn't have done half the things we've done without Mrs. Boswell and our other advisors. We appreciate her so much. And so she's here, so everyone,
yes.
Good job, Ms. Boswell.
Thank you, guys. Anybody else have any questions for us?
We can take a couple more. Aw.
Let's see. Do you have any other? What else have we done in FBLA?
We have really covered so much of our FBLA experience.
Yeah. I don't know how many seniors are in here, but like we were saying with the college and stuff, really enjoy your senior year. I'm really hoping that your guys's doesn't start the way ours ended. I'm hoping the best for all of you guys, state officers. You were really, really lucky to be joining this team. I think there may be some, I'm not quite sure, since we didn't have normal elections and stuff this year, but we had a really great state team last year. I really enjoyed working with them. We became very close with each other. Outside the time we were working on FBLA, we were talking to each other. We told each other about our college applications and, what was going on in our lives. So really look forward to that. Senior year flies by. It seems like just yesterday, I was running for regional president, and, we had our last regional meeting a few months ago, and I just thought, this is crazy, and I'm sure Natalie can tell you the same, but 1 second you have no idea what's going on, and then the next where you're going to be spending the next 4 years of your life if you're doing college, or you may know where you're going to do technical school or getting a job or an internship or whatever it may be, but it ends before you know it. And I know this has been a crazy year, but take advantage of what FBLA has to offer you. I'm really sorely going to miss regionals and states and nationals, because those are some of my best memories. Yeah.
I think the bottom line is be open to all of the experiences that FBLA will offer you. Really branch out, run for those officer positions, be engaged and open to new opportunities in being an officer or competing in an event. FBLA will open so many doors for you throughout high school, but also throughout the rest of your life. So truly, there's, in my opinion, no better organization for natural leaders. Don't be afraid. Miss Mills said, don't be afraid to take a risk. She's so right. Step out of your comfort zone, branch out. You won't regret it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, unless anyone has any last minute questions, I will say we can wrap it up.
Thank you guys for your time. We really appreciate that you took the time out of your day to come and spend some time with us and listen to us talk. I think this is a really cool experience, though quite unprecedented. The fact that Mrs. Mills and our state team and leadership were able to make this work, I'm really proud of what we've been able to do.
We'll always be here too. You can reach out to us if you have any questions about being an officer or about being in FBLA in general. I mentioned there's so many people in your corner, and we will be two of those. We'll be two of the first.
Don't be afraid to reach out to us. We really want to help you guys out.